Imagine sitting down to dinner, not knowing whether the wine in your cup would crown you with power or stop your heart before dessert. Now imagine the host wasn't a crime boss. He wasn't a king. He wasn't even an emperor. He was the Pope, the man believed to be God's representative on earth. Yet for one infamous family, the Vatican became something else entirely. A royal court, political war room, a financial empire, and, according to countless enemies and centuries of rumor, possibly one of the deadliest dining rooms in Europe. The Borgias became legends of corruption. Their family name became synonymous with poison, betrayal, seduction, and murder. But history hides an uncomfortable truth. Some of what you've heard about them is undeniable. Some of it is propaganda. And separating the two may be even more disturbing than the myths themselves. Because by the end of this story, you may discover that the greatest weapon in Renaissance Italy wasn't poison. It was reputation. Chapter 1. The Holy Throne that everyone wanted. Long before modern governments, Italy wasn't a country. It was a battlefield. City-states fought each other. Kings plotted against princes. Mercenaries sold loyalty to the highest bidder. And standing above them all was the Catholic Church. Not merely a religious institution, the papacy commanded armies, collected enormous wealth, controlled territories, influenced every crowned head in Europe. Whoever became pope didn't simply inherit a church. He inherited one of the greatest political machines on earth. And everyone wanted control, including one extraordinarily ambitious Spaniard, Rodrigo Borgia. Rodrigo had spent decades climbing the church hierarchy. He was charming, brilliant, patient, and astonishingly wealthy. When Pope Innocent VIII died in 1492, the election that followed became infamous. Even contemporary observers accused powerful candidates of buying votes with promises of money, offices, and estates. Whether every accusation was true is impossible to prove. But one thing is certain. Rodrigo won. He became Pope Alexander VI. The crown of St. Peter now rested on the head of a man whose first priority was not reform. It was family. Chapter 2. The family business called the Vatican. Alexander had children. Officially, popes were expected to remain celibate. Reality was often far messier. Alexander didn't merely acknowledge his children. He elevated them, promoted them, rewarded them. The Vatican became the headquarters of the Borgia dynasty. His son Cesare became a cardinal before he was 30. Not because of decades of theological scholarship, but because his father wore the papal crown. His son Juan received military honors. His daughter Lucrezia became one of the most politically valuable women in Europe. Her marriages weren't simply weddings. They were diplomatic treaties. Every child became a chess piece. Every appointment strengthened Borgia influence. Every alliance expanded their reach. The church was no longer just shepherding souls. It was building a dynasty. And in Renaissance Italy, dynasties attracted enemies. Lots of them. Chapter 3. Cesare Borgia learns that power isn't given. If Alexander was the architect, Cesare became the executioner. Originally destined for church life, Cesare wanted something else. Power earned through conquest. Then fate intervened. In 1497, his older brother Juan was found murdered in the Tiber River. His body carried multiple stab wounds. The killer was never identified. Rumors spread immediately. Some whispered political enemies. Others blamed jealous lovers. And some accused Cesare himself. No contemporary evidence ever proved the accusation. But the suspicion never disappeared. Because Juan's death changed everything. Cesare abandoned the church, discarded his cardinal's robes, picked up a sword, and began transforming himself into one of Renaissance Italy's most feared military commanders. The obstacle had disappeared. Whether by coincidence or conspiracy, history has never answered. Chapter 4. The Prince of Fear. Cesare didn't wage ordinary wars. He specialized in psychological warfare. Cities surrendered before battles even began. Allies became disposable. Enemies vanished. Those who betrayed him often met spectacularly public ends. The most famous example came in Senegalia. Cesare invited rival commanders to what appeared to be a peaceful meeting. They believed reconciliation awaited. Instead, they walked directly into a trap. Several were arrested. Some were executed almost immediately. Niccolò Machiavelli witnessed Cesare's political brilliance firsthand. Years later, many historians believe Cesare heavily influenced the prince. Not because he was good, because he understood power better than almost anyone alive. Chapter 5. The Poison Called Cantarella. Now we arrive at the story everyone remembers. The poison. According to generations of chroniclers, the Borgias possessed a deadly substance called Cantarella. Its exact ingredients remain unknown. Some described it as arsenic. Others imagined an exotic concoction almost impossible to detect. The stories became legendary. A lavish banquet, a toast, a smile. Then, days later, another wealthy cardinal was dead. His estates suddenly became available. His fortune redistributed. His political influence erased. Some writers claimed Pope Alexander and Cesare deliberately targeted powerful churchmen to seize their wealth. It's an irresistible story, but historians urge caution. No surviving recipe for Cantarella exists. No forensic evidence confirms its use. Many accusations came from political enemies eager to destroy the Borgias' reputation. Poison was certainly known in Renaissance Italy. Political murders happened. Suspicious deaths occurred. But whether the Borgias orchestrated a systematic campaign of poisoning remains unproven. Ironically, the legend became almost as powerful as any real poison could have been. Because once everyone believes you're capable of murder, fear begins doing the killing for you. Chapter 6. Lucrezia. Monster or victim? Few women in history have been slandered more than Lucrezia Borgia. For centuries, she became the face of every scandal attached to her family. Poisoner, femme fatale, master manipulator, even participant in incestuous relationships. The rumors exploded across Europe. Pamphlets spread them. Enemies repeated them. Artists immortalized them. Yet modern historians paint a far more complicated picture. Lucrezia was married 3 times. Not for love, for politics. She was repeatedly used to secure alliances her father needed. Her personal wishes mattered little. She lived surrounded by spies, plots, political assassinations, changing loyalties. By the end of her life, she had become a respected Duchess of Ferrara, patron of learning, a devoted mother. Was she innocent? Not entirely. She benefited from Borgia power. But many of history's darkest accusations against her remain unsupported by reliable evidence. Sometimes, the greatest prison isn't a castle. It's a reputation created by your enemies. Chapter 7. When even the Pope wasn't safe. By 1503, fortune turned. Pope Alexander VI suddenly fell gravely ill. Within days, he was dead. Almost immediately, rumors erupted. The most famous claimed he and Cesare accidentally drank poisoned wine intended for someone else. It's one of history's greatest ironies. The alleged poisoners poisoned themselves. It's also almost certainly a legend. Modern historians generally believe Alexander died of illness, likely malaria, which was widespread around Rome that summer. But myths are stubborn, especially when they fit the story people already want to believe. Cesare survived. Barely. Yet, without his father's authority, his empire collapsed astonishingly fast. Allies abandoned him. Enemies surrounded him. Political fortunes reversed overnight. The dynasty that had seemed unstoppable crumbled. Chapter 8. The legacy that refused to die. The Borgias disappeared. Their legend never did. For over 500 years, their name has symbolized corruption, nepotism, political violence, poison, forbidden desire. Some accusations were justified. Alexander openly favored his children. Cesare ruled through intimidation. Power often mattered more than morality. Others became exaggerated through propaganda. Victorious rivals wrote history. Political enemies spread sensational rumors. Writers embellished. Artists dramatized. Generation after generation, the legend grew darker, perhaps darker than reality. But maybe that tells us something equally important. History doesn't only remember what happened. It remembers what people believed happened. And sometimes, belief changes the world just as effectively as truth. The Borgias weren't the first rulers to confuse public office with private ambition. They weren't the last. They remind us that institutions, no matter how sacred, are still led by human beings. Human beings capable of extraordinary brilliance, extraordinary love for family, and extraordinary corruption. Whether every poisoning happened exactly as legend claims, or whether some stories were carefully manufactured by enemies, one fact remains impossible to ignore. The pursuit of absolute power transformed the world's most sacred office into a battlefield of ambition. And perhaps that's the darkest page of all, because history rarely asks us whether monsters exist. It asks something far more unsettling. What happens when ordinary people are given power so immense? They begin believing they're untouchable,